Welcome to the Own Your Education podcast, where we're putting the pedal to the metal on families and founders who are in the driver's seat on doing education differently. Because learning isn't one size fits all. What if your kid's education was molded around your life instead of the other way around? Here we talk to people who've tossed that rulebook right out the window. I'm your host, Ryan Clem. Let's go for a ride. Welcome back to the Own Your Education podcast. Today I'm talking to two homeschooling moms, Allie and Taylor, who started homeschooling their kids at an early age. Why? Because they wanted to spend more time with them. Let's hear more about their story. Well, Allie and Taylor, thank you so much for joining today. The two of you combined have 7 beautiful kiddos. So you obviously are busy moms, and I'd love to know a little bit more about your families and what matters to both of you in terms of your core values.
I have 3. I have a 6-year-old daughter, a just turned 5-year-old daughter, and a 2-year-old boy who keeps it very interesting. Yeah, we have one in the hybrid program, and my middle is getting just preschool homeschool right now, and my 2-year-old is disrupting all of it.
Yeah, as 2-year-olds do.
Yes.
Yes, I'm Taylor, and I have 4 kiddos, 8-year-old girl, 6-year-old boy, and they're both in the hybrid, kindergarten, second grader, and then I have a 3-year-old boy and a 1-year-old girl, and yeah, we've really enjoyed it so far, and I'm trying to think. I'm married to Mason. We've been married.
Shout out Mason.
We've been married 12 years, and we've been in Wichita for 8 years. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, Taylor, you mentioned something about slow living, and
Yes.
I take it slow living is important to your family. What does that term mean?
Okay, I guess I can explain it from my point of view. I think I have maybe seen a lot of families, and especially maybe larger families, that are so busy all the time, or just people like that you run into, and you're like, how have you been? And they're like, busy. I've just been so busy, almost wearing it as a badge. And I just think that isn't really a value of our families. Like we want to, I don't know, spend time together, make space to spend time together, do activities that we can do together. Not, I mean, of course we can do things separately, but, and just, yeah, I would say we just prioritize making space for things, which even goes into why we chose the hybrid, because we just value them still getting to play and have time, because they're not going to be young forever.
I know. And both of you send your children to a hybrid homeschool here in Wichita, Light Academy. And Taylor, you've been sending your kids for about 3 years, is that correct? Okay. Talk to me a little bit about, I think slow living probably plays into it, and just having more time with your kiddos. Was that kind of a driving factor in choosing the homeschooling lifestyle and deciding to go with a hybrid program?
Yes, definitely. I was really interested in my children's education. I was a teacher before I stayed home with my children. And so I just felt wanted to invest in that with my children. And we live in a place where we are fortunate to have a lot of options. We live in a city. There are a lot of options around us. And I feel like I was always drawn to homeschooling, but that felt like a lot of weight for just me. And so then when I came upon this hybrid option, it felt almost like the best of both worlds. I could still spend time with my kids, homeschooling them, but they also still had a teacher, classmates, social time, different things like that. And so then it felt like, even though, I just felt like I got both of what I was looking for.
Yeah. And for those who are unfamiliar perhaps with the hybrid model, how would you describe it in your own words?
Just half and half, really, like exactly 2 days at school and 2 days at home. And something that we just talked about that drew us to that was not having to choose our own curriculum. And so we're sending our kids, and they're, learning from a teacher, a real teacher. And then on our days off, we have kind of broken down like exactly what we need to do with them at home. And so it does kind of take away from the intimidation of homeschooling, because at least when we first started thinking that direction, I started looking at curriculum, and I was just like, I cannot make this decision. There's just too many options. So to just have kind of like a partner with the school through all the curriculum and just the day-to-day, what needs to be done, and the accountability of like, okay, we have to do our school because tomorrow you go to school and you have to be on track. And that's really been helpful for me as somebody who could easily just say, we don't need to do school today.
Yeah.
The accountability has been super important for us.
Yeah. And would you say, similar to Taylor, that choosing this model and this lifestyle for you was about having more of that time with your kids and allowing them to have more time to just be kids? What was the driving factor for you?
Definitely. I feel like my husband and I both, like, all throughout the last couple years have just kind of mourned, like, the time that my kids would have together as just siblings in one family unit, as my daughter was in traditional school the last 2 years, and just like kind of seeing a loss of like her childlike spirit already was a huge factor for us. Just like wanting her to, she's so imaginative, creative, and we just didn't want that to go away.
Right, right. So for both of you, obviously it sounds like you felt like this was the right choice. And you mentioned your husband. Were your partners on the same page this whole time? Did one of you have to kind of convince the other? What did that look like?
That's a good question. It actually makes me think of my parents, because my dad was like, you don't want him to be one of those homeschool kids, like, you know, and that I feel like that view is so changed now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think, maybe some people would still say that, obviously, but I think maybe people with younger kids are like, wow, there are just, it's a variety of homeschool kids, right? Or just going to an alternative school. And so, no, I thankfully feel like my husband kind of trusted that I had thought through it. And yeah, so I feel very grateful for that. I also feel like what drew us to Light specifically, which I had not seen before, is because a lot of people would say to me, oh, I did a co-op as a child. And that's really cool, but that's not what Light is. It is like they are learning their core subjects at school. They're learning phonics, reading, writing, math at Light. And so that felt to me like a good support system, where a co-op, a lot of the time you're doing maybe extra electives, which is really neat. And I could totally see us someday doing something like that. But I was more drawn to like just them having those core subjects. And then once again, the accountability of being like, are my kids on track? Well, I kind of know they are, because they go to school the next day and they're doing what their peers are doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So when they come home, so the 2 days that they're in school, they're doing more that core curriculum, and then they come home, are they doing kind of the extracurriculars with you, or do you get to kind of shape what that looks like?
Yes. So when they come home, they are having essentially homework for their core subjects like reading, writing, phonics, math. And so we'll do that. And then if we want to expand on other subjects, we can. And then also the school has electives they can sign up for. And so like right now, my kids are doing like a science class and like a space something class, I don't know, and then, or gym, or even my daughter finished a class with the principal, and it was like, she taught them lessons and they helped out with the school and stuff. And so anyways, that's kind of a fun add-on.
Yeah.
There's some cool, I think they have like a farm studies class, art, Grace is in art right now, music last trimester. So yeah.
Okay.
And it's like you can sign up for these, but you don't have to. And it's like broken into age groups too. So it's a cool option.
Yeah. And you're probably pretty involved with your kids' education, would you say?
Yeah,
Definitely. And how does that feel? Was that something you wanted as well?
I would say for me, when my daughter learned to read last year in school, I was just like, I felt like I had no part in it. And so like thinking now about being responsible for that was super intimidating at first, because I was just like, I didn't teach her how to read. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to like take that on, but it's also really special. Like now helping her write and, use proper punctuation is, I just feel super rewarding.
And maybe she was able to come to it at her own time in a different type of environment.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were just talking about math in the car, and like it wasn't working a certain way for my daughter. And similarly, Taylor said that her daughter went through that last year, and they just like kind of changed the way. Like today, I was just like, let's just draw the problem out instead of like the way that it's presented on the page. Let's just like draw circles and then take away, like physically take away this many.
Yes.
And so that was really cool to just like see what kind of works for her brain and be able to change it
Yeah.
make it like click for her, which I saw it just suddenly click, and yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I would agree that visualization with math is helpful.
Yes.
Sometimes we get grapes at home if I can't
Yeah,
find the little
that's great.
counters.
Yeah.
Do you both kind of view yourselves as, I mean, you probably have a really nice community where you're at now, but do you feel yourselves like, hey, I was really brave for making this choice? Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, I would say that. I would say we walked into that school not knowing anyone.
Yeah.
I feel like our main community chose a lot of different options, but it wasn't a hybrid. And that's not true. We did know one family entering it with us, which actually was a great comfort. But it did feel like a step out of my comfort zone for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And probably as a mom, like that's got to feel a little uneasy at first, right?
Totally. And education is such a personal choice, or it can be. And so it's something you spend a lot of time thinking about, maybe what you would want for your children or what you hope for them. And so it does feel very personal, and you want to, just spend time thinking about it, praying about it. I just feel like, especially even in Wichita, I feel like I had a baby and they're like, where are you going to send your baby to school? And I'm like, I don't know. Should I know that by now?
Yeah.
And so it is something you think about even long before maybe they go to school.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like Taylor was like a trailblazer, because she was like the first person I knew that homeschooled really in any capacity. And so when I was just like kind of exploring options, it was really comforting to have somebody that had just like gone through that decision process. And then like at our school, I feel like there was nobody else that was even like considering this. So I was just like, what's wrong with me? Like, I feel
Nothing's
like
wrong with
everybody,
you.
everybody kind of like had a hard time sending their kids to kindergarten. And that was just normal, because it went from like half day to all day. But I was like, I truly don't feel like this is right for her. And so I could kind of see that like it's normal for it to be hard, but like this is kind of past that. Like it was kind of beyond like, oh, I just miss her. Like I was just like, I don't think this is what she's supposed to be doing.
So you really felt it deep in your core.
And so, just kind of going with that and being like, I don't really know. I can't put my finger on it. I just feel like this isn't right. It was kind of scary. But
And your daughter attended 2 years in a traditional school?
Yes.
Okay, and that's when you're kind of hearing these voices like, this isn't right.
yeah. And I think the first year was just like half day. And so it was much easier to kind of work in our own life into that. But when it was all day, I just felt like I just had, a couple hours with her. And she is just such an active little child that the sitting all day was super hard for her. And I just felt like there were just little things that made me think like, maybe this isn't right for her. And that was hard to lean into, for sure. Our school, my husband went there, generations of his family. And so
this was a big change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we first talked about it, there was no like, I trust you. Like he was like, no, like
Oh, really? At
we're
first?
not doing this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So kind of when you were saying that, I was like, oh, that was not my experience at all. But I am so like forever thankful that he heard me out. He listened to several podcasts that I sent
Oh,
him
there we go.
against his will. And he, eventually did trust. And
Well, and it's hard. I mean, we all have our own lived experiences, and it's really hard to sometimes get on the same page. And this is a major choice, right? Like kids, religion, education, money. I mean, those are like big buckets that are really important to families.
Yeah.
And I think, that something about, your intuition, I think, plays a piece in some of this decision making. What would you say from the time like you planted the seed to the time you guys actively started like, okay, we're going to go check out Light Academy? Like, what was that time frame like?
It happened pretty fast. I remember we were on vacation in the spring when we listened to the first podcast on the way home. And that was when he was kind of just like, I'll listen to it, but no. And then I think we toured Light in July before this school year. So it was late in the summer when we kind of like, she had her class for the next year, and we kind of just like pumped the brakes and went to see Light, and it just felt like another intuition moment of like, this feels a little bit more like what she needs.
Yeah. I'm curious about, what do you think it was on the podcast that your husband heard, like thematically, where he was like, okay, like maybe there's something here.
There was one where the host was a dad, and I think that kind of resonated with him. And when I found that one, I was like, oh, this could be good.
Yeah.
But I really think that one is kind of what got his attention. And then just like the obvious things that he saw in our child of just about like her activeness and her wiggliness and kind of already hearing about that at school. He was just like, I can see how this may not be a perfect fit for her.
Yeah. Yeah. And both of you grew up going to traditional type environments. And I know, Taylor, you said you loved your experience. And I'm curious, since we all do have our own experiences with education, what would you say like you experienced as a kid and wanted your kids to have? And maybe there were some things that you're like, actually, now that I have kids, I don't want them to have those experiences.
Yeah, I grew up in a public school, went to the same school, K through graduation, and then I taught in a public middle school. And I would say in both environments, I had a wonderful time and experience and worked with great people and worked with great kids and probably thought that's what I was going to do. I mean, I think I always felt a little call to homeschool, but like, yeah, this is what I know, right? And I do think then you have your own children and you're like, oh, I maybe want something. Maybe I experienced it well as an adult teaching middle schoolers, but maybe I have something different in mind for them. I feel like especially how the world is changing. My children might go to college and I want them to be equipped if they want to do that, but they might not. They might go into a trade or they might be an entrepreneur. And so just feeling like now as we continue down this road, if that's like the path we choose, they just have a lot more time and hopefully opportunities because of this untraditional route we're taking to like pursue things they're interested in. And I just feel like our world now is so open to that. You don't have to go to 4 years of college to find a job and you could start one way earlier than that. And so I think I get very excited for that. I think our goal is for our children to have an associate's by the time they graduate high school. And if you're homeschooling, it's very easy to do. They can just take some extra courses on the side. And then if they want to continue to pursue those things, they can. But they also will have hopefully other opportunities or whatever they'd like. Just hope freedom and choice. And I think that really drew me to this option of just our world changing and wanting to adapt to that or wanting our kids to be equipped for it.
Yeah. No, you're so right. And there are so many different ways that kids can be successful, people can be successful. And I know sometimes, you know, maybe if you're not that familiar with homeschooling, you think, well, they can't go to college if they homeschool. I don't know if you've gotten any of those comments from anyone.
Yeah. And I would once again say those are probably a bit like older.
Yeah.
Because now we know you can. Yeah. And we know it's actually colleges love homeschoolers or like people have taken a traditional route. I think they're very interested in people that can learn differently.
Yeah.
And so, or at least from what I've read or maybe listened to, like you said.
Yeah. So are your kids, I know your oldest is 8.
Yes.
Is that right? What does he want to do? Is he already kind of vocalizing like some of his passions and interests as he's getting a little older?
My oldest is a girl, Adeline,
I'm so sorry.
and she is so creative. And I mean, she could spend hours drawing, and she does. And you're like, oh, this is wonderful. Because I don't know about you, but when I was in first grade, I wanted to be an artist when I grew up, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so
Full circle.
So she feels that way. And she's so creative. And so it's fun to see her just dive more into her hobbies. And same with my son who's in kindergarten. I mean, he just could spend hours building Legos. And he does, you know?
Oh, wow.
And so it's fun to see them really do like deep work in their hobbies.
Yeah.
Like even from a young age.
Yeah. And having the time to do that as well. Yeah. Since you guys are kind of juggling days in school versus days at home, I'm also kind of just curious, what does life look like for your families outside of just even school day, non-school day? Like, what does your family like to do? I know that you like to travel and you all have a garden. Like, what are your families interested in?
Go for it.
Okay. Yes, I feel like we have the opportunity with some more time to travel. And so my husband's very interested in mountain biking, does a lot of mountain biking. And so that's kind of now been a family activity. We go down to Bentonville, Arkansas a lot and bike as a family. And like even I had my daughter 2 summers ago and we like just strap her on and we bike with her. And the 3-year-old has a little seat with my husband and he bikes with him and our older 2 bike. And so that's been a really fun hobby that I feel like we've been able to invest time into. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I would
fun.
say, yeah, just a lot of time outside. I feel like when it is peak garden season, my husband is in the garden for hours and everybody's just
Wow.
kind of like around him, and he's had a lot of teaching moments, which is cool. I can't say that I contribute much to the garden, but I
So
love to be outside.
what does he produce?
Veggies, fruit, strawberries, herbs. Seems to add something to it
Okay.
every year, but yeah, just kind of your basic like whatever grows well in
Okay.
the Kansas heat. But he's just like constantly taking off the dead leaves and like just doing the most for his
Wow.
garden. But
I'm very impressed.
yeah, I know, it's cool. It's I'm so thankful that my kids can learn that from him because that's not a skill of mine. But I do love to be out there, and yeah, I feel like we just like to be outside.
Yeah. So are you doing like farm to table meals? Are you doing salads from the garden or?
We have some collabs. I make sourdough and he has the tomatoes and the basil. So sometimes we make like bruschetta
Ooh.
or like caprese
Okay.
stuff, but I wouldn't say like full on meals. We're just
Yeah.
kind of doing some little
Sides.
collabs
Appetizers.
here and there.
Well, and you mentioned your kids like learning from it. And I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of learning that happens outside of the classroom. I mean, watching
Yeah.
dad, make his own food. You guys are out on the trail. Do you feel like there are these little moments where you're like, hey, I'm teaching them to be a real human here?
Yeah, I definitely. Yeah. I think it's cool to also have like family members be able to be a part of it too. So my mom got very excited right away and started thinking of like all the things she could teach them. And just my brother is an artist, and so he's like, I'll teach them art class. And I think everybody just likes to be able to contribute to that.
Okay.
And
When they found out they were going to do
yes,
homeschooling?
yes,
Okay.
they got excited to kind of get involved, and there's just so many ways to do that without even like a formal curriculum or lesson. Just like, oh, the neighbor is changing his tire. Go over there. Like,
Yeah,
go-
totally.
They get curious and they just kind of go see what's going on. And those real life moments are just
Yeah.
so valuable.
And that seems like what kids remember.
Yeah.
My kids will be like, remember that one time when this happened and you did this, this, and this? I'm like, yes, how do you
Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah.
But sometimes it's kind of just these impromptu kind of obscure moments, but they're always good learning moments as
Yeah.
well. What would you guys say, since you've been on this journey, Taylor, for a few years now, I know you're just kind of getting started. What's been the biggest surprise for you?
I think it's been very fun to be a part of their education. Like, we literally are teaching them to read. And like, even I'll be like, oh, an E at the end of the word makes the vowel say its name. Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. I'm relearning it again, like myself. And so that's been very fun. I also feel like it's been stretching because I feel like every season calls for something different. 1 year I had a newborn with me. That created a different
Yeah.
dynamic.
Yeah.
1 year I, just like needing to like change different things we do. Right now on Thursdays, my younger two, my 1 and 3-year-old, go to like a kids day out program, and me and the two big kids go to a coffee shop and we do school. We go to the same coffee shop every Thursday and do school there
I love
until we're
that.
done. And then they pick a board game to play at the end and they play it once we're done. And it's just been very fun and unique and feels like such a special time with them. So I've just enjoyed some of that stuff, but also it will change within seasons, you know? Yeah.
I love that. It just being more fun.
Yeah.
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 I would say the biggest surprise for me was just that I could do it. Like, I feel like when I first thought about it or even heard of other people homeschooling, I was just like, I could never do that. And I hear that from people all the time. And I just want to say, yes, you can. Anybody can. I mean, I think that it works better for, certain just kids and people, but I've just been so like pleasantly surprised with just a mother or a father's ability to just know what their kids need and just do it.
Yeah. Well, and you know your kids best.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then you can really lean into your intuition and also what you know about your kid to give them the experience that is right for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Has there been anything that has been challenging, kind of the flip side of that? Anything you've kind of had to work through?
I would just say juggling with younger kids. I think would probably be the biggest challenge for me. And like working with my daughter this morning for 2 hours and realizing I have not even like looked at my other kids for a couple hours, and they're probably tearing up the house. The house has never been in worse shape. But yeah, I'd say that's just the challenge, kind of letting other things go and trying to split your time with your other kids.
That's always the battle, no matter what
hard.
you do.
Yeah.
I want my children to walk away with a positive experience with their education, whatever that is. And so definitely just like wanting to be patient with it and with them. And then, I would say younger kids is a like juggling act. But once again, I feel like that even feels like a season. And so like right now on Tuesdays, my neighbor and I go in with a babysitter for like 2 hours in the morning. And so my younger kids are with the babysitter. And I like in my mind imagined this like one room schoolhouse and all my kids sitting at a table. And that seemed like so beautiful and fun. And it just like, I was very impatient and I was getting kind of annoyed and I was snapping. And I was like, I don't want this to do with their education experience.
Yeah.
And so just feeling like we could adapt to like the season, or we really embraced the Y childcare for a while. And we would go to the gym, and my younger ones would go into the childcare, and I would do school with my oldest.
Yeah.
And then she'd go join them, or we'd work out or whatever, you know? And so just feeling like in the season and just trying to find what works best. And because I want them to look back at this time and feel like seen and feel like it felt special and not I was annoyed or frustrated.
Right.
And so just when that comes, adapting to that.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've been very mindful about that and really creative too with how you've structured it, like putting kids in Kids Stay Out or doing this while you do something else with the older ones. What I'm hearing is you can kind of retool it as you go, right? And what might work 1 year or a couple months may not work the next couple months, right? Like you kind of have to be willing to be flexible.
Sure.
So, and I know, Allie, you mentioned before that you thrive in chaos.
I do. I do thrive in chaos, and my husband does not. So he's probably like, you need to reel all this in. But I feel like the more pets, and we had chickens and ducks last year, and I just love it. I just love the craziness, and hopefully my kids can walk away like just remembering the fun and the joy and not like resenting me for it. But I do feel like I am a patient person and can just kind of like let some of the chaos roll off my back, but have really had to embrace that part of myself this year.
Yeah. And even though it maybe look like chaos on the outside, it's all very purposeful.
Yeah.
You know, the chickens are supposed to be there, and
yes.
you're supposed to be having
walk
free
in
time
and be like, this is not okay. But we all know what we're doing. We're usually, and there's arts and crafts all over the place, but hopefully they're creative.
Yeah. And I know you guys are noticing just how your kids are feeling and what they're showing you in terms of where they're at and how they're thriving. What would you say is like the most important thing? I know that you, Taylor, said like, you know, your kid's just enjoying it, right? How do you know when you're successful?
I think I will give some credit to the program we're a part of, Light. I just feel like they've grown so well. More people are interested in this, and they've adapted. They've hired a principal. They've added electives. They've moved buildings. And so I feel like I see my kids going, enjoying school, like never dragging them there. They're just loved there. Like they're loved with their teachers and their classmates. And then I feel like just such a value of ours at home is just their sibling relationships. And I feel like they have every once in a while I'll hear someone say, oh, my kids just bicker all the time, which my kids definitely bicker. But they're also like, that's who they're going to choose to like play with. They have very sweet relationships with one another. And that really is the relationships they're going to carry on for life.
Yeah.
I mean, is their sibling relationships. And I just think like when I had my youngest, like Addie would have been in full-time school. And not to say you can't have good relationships. I have sisters much younger than me. I have great relationships with them. But just seeing now she gets lots of time with her baby sister and gets to hold her and like love on her and play with her. And so that feels like it's working. Their relationships are working,
Yeah.
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 A strong bond.
Yeah. You're just giving them more of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And all but, I think you have a 1-year-old baby,
Yes.
right? So all but one of your children are at Light. Is that correct?
I have a 1 and 3-year-old that are at home with me.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. And are you doing any type of preschool at home or?
Not yet, but I feel like even the hybrid has given me time to really like have my littles still and not feel like pulled to doing school with them every day. I have like my big 2 will go off to school and then I can, still be like a mom to littles and we can do all the fun. Let's go to the library. Let's go, on a play date and things that I don't necessarily do as much with my older kids anymore. So that's felt like a gift to me as well.
Yeah, that definitely is a gift. When choosing this type of lifestyle, where you are doing education differently, and at Vela, we believe that education is more than just schooling. It's a holistic lifestyle of freedom, and you both are obviously stepping into that. How would you say outside of education that you or your family is living with freedom in terms of the choices that you make, or maybe how you think about things, how you spend your time?
That's a good question. It's been fun to see my husband and I pursue a lot of hobbies, like into adulthood. I kind of remember as a child, my mom like doing a lot of creative endeavors. And now to be like, I took up knitting a year ago. And now I love to knit and I like to sew a lot. And just to think that my kids are getting to learn some of these things or getting to pursue what they're passionate about has felt like a fun opportunity. Yeah, I feel like we really have the freedom of time, and that feels like a gift.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I would say, like, showing my kids that you don't have to do the status quo, or what's working for everybody else may not work for you or may not be what you want, and that's okay. And just to kind of have it in you to try something different.
Yeah. And just being very confident in that too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's okay to be different. In fact, like it's encouraged.
Yeah.
Just
definitely.
to be your own unique self.
Yes.
Yeah. So for parents who maybe are thinking about doing something different with their kids' education, whether they just have little ones or maybe they're in an environment that's maybe not quite working, what kind of advice would you give them?
I think one of the most like freeing things for me that gave me the courage was just that take it year by year. People would say like, take it year by year. It's not permanent. And my mindset was initially like, if we homeschool, we have to homeschool like forever. And it has to work perfectly. And I can't fail them or I can't go back if it doesn't work. And that's just not true. And there's so many different like versions of homeschooling or just alternative schools, and you'll just find what works and it'll feel good, and it doesn't have to be permanent if it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
Yeah.
Allie did a really good job of, I feel like when you were starting to like think you wanted something different, I feel like you just sought out a lot of people and asked advice.
Yes.
And some were doing what we're doing, but some were also doing just all homeschool or different options. And I feel like you were just like good about asking questions and yeah, just people you respect asking them and just seeing how it's working.
Yeah, I think
that was cool.
Find somebody who's been in your shoes or just doing something that you're interested in and just pick their brain, see if you feel like it could work for your family.
Yeah. And you knew each other before?
Yes.
Okay, so you had that benefit of like, hey, I've heard that you do this thing. Can we talk about it?
Yeah, and I feel like it's brought us closer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Yeah. Do you feel like there are other moms who reach out to you and like, hey, I'm thinking about this too? Maybe there will be now after they watch this podcast.
Yeah, I have some friends that have a little bit younger kids that are definitely like, I want to maybe do that when my kids are in school. I feel like a lot of people are kind of just thinking in other directions now. I have a really good friend who started Light at the same time as me. So that was fun. Her child was enrolled in traditional kindergarten, and her and I were feeling kind of similar over the summer, and we both toured Light and like took the dive together. So that was fun.
Oh, that's nice.
I still feel like there's a ton of people that are just like, I could never do that. And I think that we'll start to see that change.
Well, this brings me to a good question. around myths, right? Like there's a lot of myths I think about not only homeschooling, but just different types of education in general. So if you could bust a myth, what would it be?
Yes, I think the one that comes to mind is that we chose this option because we were scared of sending our kids to a traditional school, and the world's changing and it could be scary, or who knows what would happen there or what they would learn. And maybe that is why some people choose different options. I would say that is not the reason we chose it. I feel like we felt very called to try something different. We had our priorities like time with our children and flexibility in our schedule and wanting to be more involved in their learning. But I would say fear did not play a role in it.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have come from different backgrounds and have had like good experiences there. If anything, I felt like we had too many options to choose from. That almost made it hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a fear-based option, but an opportunity
Yes.
based option.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I would add to that just kind of the myth of sheltering your kids, and it
Like
just,
by homeschooling, you're going to shelter
yes,
them.
you're just kind of keeping them in your worldview and like what you want them to see and hear. And while that might be true to an extent of just things they get exposed to young, for me, I feel like we're like freeing them versus like restricting them. It's just kind of like the opportunity to travel and serve others, like in our church and in the community. I'm not like fully, I wouldn't say our schedule is like packed how I want it yet because there's so little, but I just like think down the road about just the opportunities that they'll have in the community and kind of just the diverse experiences that they may get that will just like enrich their lives.
What has this journey taught you about yourself?
Go ahead.
Oh gosh. Well, I think one of the first things I said to Taylor when we sat down was I said, listen, I am disorganized. I am just like not the type that could thrive and do this. Like I just don't feel like I'm cut out to be responsible for my children's education. But on the flip side of that, I've just like learned about my strengths that I can bring to the table and the things that I can add to their lives. And it was also such a good opportunity to be more organized and change some things about myself that I thought would hinder the process. So yeah, I would just say
Your kids were your big motivator, maybe.
yes, definitely. And I wasn't, to anything to make it work.
Yeah, you're just you.
Yes. That was when Taylor said, you might look into a hybrid school. When I said, I think we're just going to homeschool, she was like, you should really look into the hybrid school. And I was so thankful for that.
That's funny. Yeah, just that I was capable of helping teach my children and just getting to be very involved in their education has been very fun.
Yeah.
And a gift.
Yeah. That's so well put. It is a gift for sure.
Yes.
It was a gift to have you on this podcast as
Oh,
well.
thank
So
you.
you.
It was
I really
fun.
appreciate your time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. Thanks for listening today. If it challenged your way of thinking or gave you that little bit of courage you were looking for, be sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, you don't have to be on this journey alone. If you want to connect with like-minded founders and parents, download the Vela app in the App Store or Google Play. Own your education and your life will follow.
This show is part of the ICT Podcast Network. For more information, visit ictpod.net.